Hi everybody, it's Kirsty here from My Home Truths, Positive Special Needs Parenting. Thank you to everyone who stuck around over the last few weeks while I haven't been feeling 100% myself. It was nice to have a bit of a break, but it's also been nice to come back. Yeah, so I've got everyone off to school today. Happy return to school for those people in New South Wales like me doing that. It was okay. Gilbert's not 100% happy to go back, but he went back, which is great. Matilda had a few tears. I had to go and talk to her teacher. She's okay. And Delilah was just so happy to be back to see her friends, I think. So that was really good. So far so good. And no phone calls. So, you know, I know it's early. It's only 11:15 in the morning, but I'll take that. I'll be happy with that. I'm feeling a bit better myself. I had a cold, sinus, so it's still sort of really sinusy and up there. And that's why I'm filming sort of in my bedroom and the light's really light, but I needed light. So my eyes are like going, I can't cope with this. Yeah, so everything's doing okay. But in the last sort of in this last week anyway, I started to have a few issues with NDIS. And I don't know how many of you, I know it's being rolled out sort of gradually across Australia. For those outside of Australia, the NDIS is the National Disability Insurance Scheme. It's the way the federal government has put together to be able to help people who are either born or have an acquired disability, you know, to participate more fully in society. And the idea is that you put together a plan with a planner, a government planner. They then they work out what they're willing to fund according to the policies and procedures of the NDIS, and then you go forth and you get that, you access those services, and you can either self-manage the money, so the money you pay for it and get it through the NDIS, or what I do is I normally just get NDIS to pay it because it saves me more stress and worries to sort of, you know, to handle money and to worry about all that stuff. So the NDIS, in our case anyway, sort of pays the provider directly for the services that they give under the plan, which is awesome in theory. But the issue being, anyway, is the fact that we've had a few issues with our plan, and particularly issues with what line items, so the actual service amounts, the services sort of attached to the amounts of money that you're given that our providers are using. And it was prompted by an email I got late last week saying, oh, you know, we're trying to access Matilda's money, we can't get any. And I'm going, oh my God, it's only July, we can't have gone through the whole amount. And unfortunately, I didn't have access to the portal to check. You can actually online check the portal to see sort of how your, you know, sort of the expenses are going and how much money you've got left against each part of your plan. So I rang the NDIS yesterday a couple of times, as it turned out. And it's all about the fact that the providers are all using this one bucket of money. So in Matilda's case, anyway, there's three buckets of money. They all have different purposes, but all the providers are actually using the one bucket of money, and this bucket of money is running out. So I've got to try and get them to use these other buckets of money. But even though the NDIS has said, yes, the providers can use these buckets of money, the providers are now coming back and saying, sorry, we can't use that bucket of money, which pretty much screws us over, as it does most other people, because all we're trying to do is to access the funds that have been allocated for Matilda to allow her to transition to high school more smoothly, you know, to deal with her anxieties and just to be able to participate more fully in the community. So I was really angry yesterday. I'm a little bit less angry today, but I'm actually more alarmed, I suppose, because the information provided on the plan isn't very specific. So the plan itself, Matilda, there's three. For the big bucket of money that everyone's sort of, you know, going in and using, it's all about transition to high school, but it's very vague. There are no line item numbers. There is no indication where which services are actually funded by that bucket of money. And the issue I had early on when I first got the plan, I had to actually go to the providers themselves and say, which one can you draw from? Because I don't know what this is supposed to be used for. So there's a few systemic issues, I think, here, and the problem is that I'm lucky I've got the time and the energy and, you know, most of the time the inclination to actually try and sort out these issues and get a good result for my kids. But for those people who work full time, who can't ring in NDIS hours, for those people who are struggling and can't afford all the multiple phone calls to fix these things up. For all those people who, you know, just don't have the first clue what to do because they're new, they've just received the diagnosis. What support is in that? I'm lucky, and yes, Tony, that's right. Yep, no one understands it, and not even them, and that is dead right, because, and that seems to be the issue that we're coming to, and that's why I finally wanted to talk about it a bit. I'm in Newcastle, so I've been in a pilot site for 4 years now. So this is the 4th year we've had the NDIS. I would have thought by now the kinks in the system would have been looking a little less kinky here in Newcastle anyway. But the problem being that the providers are still not clear on what line items they're allowed to use. The NDIS, what they've done, and I can see this because I can look at their first plans that we got years ago to now, in the beginning, they were very specific with what you had to do. Okay, so there was issues with that. We had that. We had a problem with some of Gilbert's first plans where he was given a certain amount for, you know, for speech, a certain amount for OT, a certain amount for psychology, and a certain amount for his vision sort of requirements as well. And what we would find during the year is that obviously, you know, he might have, you know, he needed a rest from OT but needed more speech, or vice versa, or whatever the case may be. So in those early plans, the flexibility wasn't there, and it was really difficult. And you'd have to ring up, you'd have to get a new plan, all this other stuff. So I can see what they've done, what the NDIS have done, and go, okay, we'll make these more flexible, which is fantastic if anyone knew actually what these amounts were supposed to be used for. So the issue now is, as I said, this is my 4th sort of go around in this. And I still, when I got Matilda's plan in December last year, I had to ring up the NDIS to find out what I could use these amounts for. Because, true to God, it just said transition to high school, dealing with anxiety, and pretty much a bucket for anything else, you know, that was flexible core supports. So there was nothing, there was no indication in there to say, use this is for use with a speech therapist, or this is for use with a psychologist, or etc. There's no line items listed. So the providers themselves have this whole other portal, have this whole other sort of framework behind the scenes that they need to adhere to, so that they can actually, you know, claim the money, and so it's not a rort for everybody. So they have particular line items which are then under a cluster of supports. So they're only allowed to basically claim for certain buckets of money. So what you're trying to do, or ideally what should be happening, is the NDIS, the plan, should come back and say, okay, here's this bucket, this is the line number you can use this bucket for, this is the cluster of support it sits under, and these are some of the, you know, these services you may be able to access. So there's quite a few different issues with that. So really it should say, for the provider as well as for the participant, this is what this money should be used for. And I think the NDIA, the agency that runs the NDIS, needs to obviously up their game when it comes to communication with the providers, to say, yes, providers, you can use more than just this one safe bucket. Because the issue I've had is they all want to use this one bucket, which is CB, sort of daily living or daily activities or something like that, which seems to be the most common and the one that most of them use in most plans. But again, each plan is different. Again, you've got, at each plan, NDIS planner will, might put down a different element of their plan. It's really, really, it's really difficult to get your head around. And I'm really hoping that in time it will get better. But I suppose from my point of view is, as I said, I've been in this now for 4 years and I still can't make head or tail of it myself. And I'm not an unintelligent person. And I'm lucky I have time, I have capacity to try and sort this out. But I'm really, really fearful for those people. The first hurdle is to actually get access to the NDIS. The second hurdle is to actually get the support you need. But this third hurdle is to actually know what to do with the money once you get it. And to be honest, yes, it's great to have support for people with disability. It's great for us to have, the choice of providers, etc. But it's not great for us to have this lack of clarity, which means that we run out of money because no one will use money. And I've got the money. There is money sitting there, but the providers don't want to use that money, or they don't want to do the whole rigmarole, the bureaucratic rigmarole, which I was told yesterday, which was I have to actually go to each provider and go, hey, are you able to sort of, refund or take, give back some of this money from this bucket so I can give you some money in another bucket? Like, it's just, It shouldn't be this hard. And then I've got, friends, and I don't know how many, I've lost count of how many people have actually sort of emailed me and messaged me saying, what do I do with my plan? And I'm a bit the same, and I'm struggling. And I'm lucky that, at least with Gilbert's case, he's been on this journey for this amount of time, for 4 years. He's in his 4th plan. I've got a little bit of an idea. But in that time, I suppose, and then you'd think, oh, why didn't you have an idea with Matilda? Well, the plans themselves and the way they're written out and put it together are changing as well. And in the case of Matilda's plan, she got this new plan in this new format I hadn't seen before. Meanwhile, Gilbert, because he was an existing client and we could see that his needs, or assuming an assessment was made, his needs were roughly the same, was carried over. So he didn't even get a new plan in last year. Basically, his plan was duplicated for this current year. So I won't even really have another planning meeting. And I haven't had a planning meeting for him, well, for a year and a half now. And his needs are changing, as he grows into a teenager, and as we need to work towards more independence, we'll need to sort that out. But the core issue remains that, the communication between all parties in the NDIS, is sadly lacking. And the fact that the plans themselves are so vague, and I can see what the NDIS are trying to do, and I applaud them because I was one of those ones stuck in that inflexible schedule that they used to have. But the problem is, you can be too flexible and you can be too vague. And at the moment, the NDIS and the plans that I've seen and the plans that I have for my kids, are too vague. And they're not, they're not helping anybody. And so we're coming to these situations where I am now, and I'm the lay person in this scenario. I'm not even the one covered by the plan my kids are, but I'm the one who now has to talk to each provider and negotiate with them and work out who is actually going to take less of the pie, or who is going to, use this other bucket of, these other 2 buckets of money. And to be honest, we shouldn't have to do that. This shouldn't be an issue that that people under the NDIS need to sort out. Participants shouldn't have that extra hassle. This really should be something that is very clear cut and not under any question when the plan is put together, so that the NDIA know exactly how much money is allocated for that child or for that participant and for what purpose, and the providers know exactly which line and which bucket of money that they can take, they can claim from. And, it's not rocket science. And I know it's an evolving program, a system. I've seen it. As I said, I've been in it from the start. But I think that, in an already difficult system, so in an already difficult environment where, you've had to go through that diagnosis process, in most cases, if we're talking autism, like my kids, you've had to go through the diagnosis process. So you're whacked from that. You then have had to go through the process of proving why your child needs access to the NDIS. And that's a really soul-destroying process. You need to hope that they'll actually give you the money. You then have to hope they give you what you've asked for and they don't give you less. Then on top of that, when you're already in this really emotional, fragile place, you've then got to now fight and work out, okay, well, I don't even know what I'm supposed to use this money for. And I wouldn't be surprised if people just give up and just go, okay, yeah, I've got it, but I can't use it. Don't know what to use it for. And that's only going to be to the detriment of themselves and to the system itself. So I would like to write more, and I'm going to share my thoughts, and I'm going to sit down and obviously as I sort of resolve this particular situation. But yeah, I'm really angry and I'm really upset and grumpy about the NDIS at the moment because it shouldn't be this hard, and it shouldn't be causing more issues with people. It's here to help people. It's not here to make our lives more difficult. And in so many cases, in so many forums, the NDIS is seen in such a bad light by parents, participants, carers, and the providers themselves. The red tape they have to do, and a lot of them, they have tried to claim under particular numbers and they haven't been able to. And so they've been burnt before. They don't want to, burned again. But really, clearly, there needs to be more more discussion and between the NDIA and the providers, more true understanding of the planners to understand what they're actually giving, what information, what funding are they giving to, their clients. And, ultimately more help for us as clients to go, okay, well, so we're not clogging up their phone line saying, can you tell me what I need to do, what I need to use this money for, so it's, I don't know. I could vent and rant all day. I won't. But yeah, I just wanted to share my thoughts there because, I've been one of the lucky ones so far. you know, we've benefited so much from the NDIS. Prior to the NDIS, we got hardly any help for our kids, particularly for Gilbert, mainly because my kids, you know, don't have intellectual disability in addition to the autism. And a lot of the state-based services were very much looking at sort of more people sort of with intellectual disability to assist them. And so my kids didn't fit into that category. And they seem to be missed, you know, and sort of fallen through the cracks everywhere. Whereas at least now under the NDIS, they can get the support they need. And as a system, it's brilliant. And as a system, you know, I fully support it. But it really saddens and worries me to see these systemic issues with a system that really should be there to help people. But in reality, for so many people, are just adding more angst and hassle to their lives. So, you know, I have no answers. I will be talking to the NDIS again today. Because I need to verify a few things that I've been told by some of the providers. Other little things like trying to work out, I can see how much money on the portal, for instance, is being... That stupid phone, I don't know what's going on with it. I don't want to talk to you, whoever you are, go away. So, you know, for instance, trying to work out how much money is actually left, because sometimes what we see on the participant side of the portal isn't what the NDIS see. So for instance, I can see that, yep, we've used half the money, but in reality, more of it has been taken because there's actually abilities for the providers to pre-claim amounts. So they basically say, okay, I'm going to sort of quarantine this amount for us to claim through the year. Which means that obviously someone else is coming. This is in our case what's happened. There's been pre-claiming by many different people. And so we found that, you know, we don't have sort of the money left because someone should have been pre-claiming from a different, or at least putting their claims in a different bucket. So yeah, so there's issues on all sides, you know, and to be fully, you know, and so I could face the possibility that we need to severely curtail, you know, therapies, which we've been given money for, but only because the red tape and the bureaucracy of trying to get the funding, you know, to get the money from the NDIS to, you know, the providers involved. So, you know, I just, you know, if you've had any similar issues, let me know, you know, and I'd love to know if you want to message me, that's okay, because I know it can be quite confronting. And while I'm on this, I've actually set up a, it's only got 2 people, which I think is me and Positive Special Needs Parenting the page, but I've actually set up a group. And it's taken me a long time to get to this point, because I know that for some people, coming to the page and leaving their thoughts on the page is very open. It's not private, and, you know, and there's sometimes, you know, the information you want to share is not, you know, really something that you want people on your timeline to be able to share. So I've set up a group, and you can look for it, called Positive Special Needs Parents. I think there might be a link to it on the Positive Special Needs Parenting page as well. So if you know, if you are a parent of a child with special needs, that's who I want to welcome to the group. You know, grandparents, etc. You know, I mean, you can join as well. There are some questions that I've put in at the front. So if you request to join, you'll be asked, you know, do you have children with special needs? If you're a grandparent, maybe just put in there, I'm a grandparent or whatever, or a carer rather than a parent. And then I think the second question is about what are the special needs that you are dealing with? And that's just to get a feel for, you know, to give me an understanding, you know, of all the different topics and things that we might be able to do, to offer and to share and to discuss on the page and in the group. And it also asks you, I think, what country and state you're from. And again, that's just to get a real feel for where everybody's from. Because if I'm going to talk, you know, NDIS, for instance, that's really Australian specific, you know, but there might be other things that, you know, there might be international people as well. Because the page is, you know, is growing and it's great. And regardless of where we're from, this phone, regardless of where we're from, we're all facing very similar challenges. And so I'm setting up the group as a support group. And I want to, you know, I want it to be there to talk about the positives, the realities of special needs parenting, and everything in between. So feel free if you want to request to join. And I'm the only admin at the moment. I'm hoping to add to the admin team. If anyone's keen to put their hand up to help me, that'd be great. But I'm hoping to add to the admin team. And so in there we can talk if you've got questions about NDIS, if you've got a question about, transitioning and anxiety and stuff with school, if you have any questions about, if you have any questions about, traveling, because we've also got the page Autism Family Travel, so feel free to join that as well. I'm not sure if that's linked to this one yet, But yeah, autism family travel. I'm going to keep going on that one. It's been pretty quiet for a while. But yeah, so please, feel free and come along, join the groups, look at the other page. What I really want to do is to make these places safe places for everybody, because we're all facing different challenges, but there are so many common elements to all the things that we're looking at. And to be honest, it'd be great to be able to have a place where we can look at all the positives of life and all the positives of our lives and of, our kids' successes, etc. With other people who actually understand. I wanted the other day to put up, something, I went to the movies and I put it up on my personal page. Gilbert went with his best friend, and it was amazing because I went along, but he said, "Oh, can you sit a few rows back, Mum? I just want to sit by myself here." And I'm going, this is great, but most people just go, "Oh, he's 13 and you're still going to the movies with him." No, especially as parents, we get this. It's like, oh my God, yes, that's huge. He was able to, he still wanted me there, and no, I was there, but he didn't need me to be right near him, which I thought was a really lovely and a really good sort of progress forward for us. And little things too, as I said, I'll be very pleased this week if I don't get a call from either school rather my kids, because the first week back is always really, really hard for us. So things like that. So join the group. It's Positive Special Needs Parents. You can look for it on Facebook. There is a link to it, I think, somewhere on the page. So up, down, sideways, I don't know where. And the other page to look out for if you're an autism family wanting to travel is Autism Family Travel. And that's where Nathan, my husband, and I are sharing our experiences and sharing places we've been, and we're trying to also point out where things are sensory friendly, where things, where there might be particular special interests that might be attractive to your family, things like that. And last shout out, and this phone, I am going to throw it. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's beep, 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 beep. APAC, so the Australian Pacific Autism Conference is on in September in Sydney, and I'm actually presenting 2 sessions. I need to probably start those soon, but I'm presenting one session on the first day about our experience mainstreaming an autistic student to a mainstream high school and transitioning. So that's going to be full of a lot of the things we've learned and the experiences that we've had along the way. And it's been very successful. Gilbert got an excellent report. His anxieties are high still, but we're working on that. We think there's going to be, I'm very confident we're going to have a positive result there in the end. And the second presentation I'm giving is on the second day. It is about, that you can travel as an autism family. And it's going to be sharing a lot of our hints and tips along the way as well. And our experiences, if you don't already know, if you haven't been part of the page, we've been to America, we've been to the Caribbean, we've been to New Zealand, and we've been, to different places in Australia. So to the Gold Coast, we've done the theme parks as well. So it is possible, and I believe it's possible, but there's a lot of work in it, and there's a lot to do with mindset and a lot of that stuff as well. So feel free to come along with the ride with some of those pages and groups. And also, if you're coming to APAC, come and see me. Or not, that's cool, because that might freak me out. If too many people come along. I know someone actually, I had to laugh at them. They're presenting at APAC as well, but their session's on at the same time as Tony Atwood's session. So she said she's actually happy about that because she thinks it's going to be less pressure on her. I don't have that same thing. Although, I don't know. There's so many going on. If you haven't checked out the program, it's fantastic. There's about, I think, 7 or 8 different sessions going on at the same time at different parts in the day. And yeah, it's just going to be a whole lot of information, a whole lot of support and understanding, hopefully, for parents of autistic kids, for autistic individuals themselves, for educators, for everybody. So yeah, so consider going along if you're able to, and I will be sharing the information, the presentations, once I actually, put them together. That's my job for this term. With you here as well. So even if you can't get there, I will do my best to share what I'm putting together anyway. So yeah, other than that, I'm doing okay. I have angst with the NDIS. I'm stressed about school, but it's all going to be okay. Mantra. Anyway, I'm going to go now because I need to go and pull that out of the wall. But I hope your day is okay. I hope that the start back to school has been smooth so far. Yeah, feel free to message me if you ever want to discuss anything that you don't feel happy or comfortable with sharing on the page. And as I said, Positive Special Need Parents. is the group that I've set up, and come along and join in. So I will leave that because I've got a lot of cooking and phone calls to make now. But hopefully have a great week, and I will talk to you later. See ya.